So we're on here now to question 3. It's our first coordinate geometry question, coordinate geometry of the line. It says the diagram shows the triangle ABC. The line 2x plus y equals 8 meets the x and y axis at the points A and B respectively. So let's have a look here. This is the line we're talking about, 2x plus y equals 8. My point A, my point B, it gives me my coordinates of point C as 7, 4. It asks us to calculate A and B and hence calculate the distance from A to B. So A is on the x-axis. So therefore our y coordinate is 0. Putting in 0 for y, I can calculate x to be 4. B is on the y-axis, so x is 0. Putting in 0 for x, I get y equals 8. I can now use my distance formula here from page 18 to calculate the distance from A to B. So we're well used to this idea. It's the square root of 4 minus 0 to be squared plus 0 minus 8 to be squared. And we're going to end up here with an answer of 4 root 5 in its simplest form. So that was worth 5 marks. So there's a little bit of work to get the 5 marks, but at the same time, nothing difficult in there. So now we're told that AC is 5, that BC is root 65, and we know, of course, that AB is 4 root 5. So I'm asked to calculate the angle ABC. So angle ABC, of course, is this angle here. Because I have 3 sides and I'm looking for one angle, I'm going to use my cosine rule. So the odd bit of time people can get a little bit confused because they'd say, we're looking for the angle at B. But there's an A here as my angle, and sometimes people will make the mistake of thinking that A here will refer to this angle here. But that's not the case. It's just the way the formula is written in the table book. So in our case, whatever angle it is we're looking for, the side referred to as A, and this one is the side across or furthest away from that angle. So in our case, the side I'm referring to is 5. So we'll have 5 by itself on the left-hand side. 5 squared is equal to the sum of the squared of the other two. So 4 root 5 squared plus root 65 squared minus twice 4 root 5 times root 65 times the cosine of angle ABC. So I'm going to tidy this up. Just one thing to be careful of here, I'm going to square both of these out, add them together, bring them over to the left-hand side. I will have a minus 120 at that point, a minus 120. But when I multiply out my minus 2 times 4 root 5 times root 65, that's going to give me a minus 40 times root 13 times cosine of angle ABC. So I've just reorganized where they are there in that line. But one thing to be very careful of, that sometimes students make a mistake when at the start, you'll see this, is that sometimes students multiply this out and they get the 40 root 13, and sometimes they'll subtract it away from this part here, but you can't do that because it's attached onto the cosine of angle ABC. So I can divide across by my 40 root 13, and I'm going to end up with the cosine of angle ABC is equal to 3 over root 13. So then I'm going to have my angle ABC is equal to the inverse cos of 3 over root 13, and that's going to be equal to 33.69. And I want to make sure I'm reading my question again at the end of all this work to make sure I'm answering the right thing and I'm not going to lose any marks, and I end up at 34 degrees to the nearest degree. And that was a 5 marks as well. Okay, that's all leading on here to our part C. The point N lies on AB such that CN is perpendicular to AN. Let me say that again. CN is perpendicular to AB. Show that the line CN, show it on the same diagram, so you can just draw that in. Okay. On the same diagram, and then find the coordinates of N. So what are we going to do here? Well, we know that the slope of AB is equal to -2. So how do we know that? Well, here's my AB. So if I isolate y, I'm going to -2x plus 8. So my slope here is my -2. So the perpendicular line to AB, which in this case is going to be, CN, for instance, is perpendicular to AB, will have the slope where I invert -2/1 and change the sign. So I'm going to have a half. So the slope of this line here will be the slope of a half. And that looks about right. It's an upward sloping line that's not very steep. So that's the slope of a half. The equation then, well, I have 1.74 and I have my slope. So I say y minus 4 is equal to half times x minus 7. Multiply across by my 2. I get x minus 2y is equal to -1. Okay, so that's my equation of this line CN. I'm looking for the coordinates at N. So I'm looking for the coordinates here. I have my two equations. I can solve them simultaneously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this guy here by 2 to get my 2x minus 4y minus 2. I'll bring them over here. I'm going to subtract that from the other equation. That's going to make my x's cancel. 5y is equal to 10, y is equal to 2. And subbing back the 2 in for y, I can get my value of x to be x equals 3. So I'm there now. I have my point. My point is 3, 2. And for C, in total, it was a 15-mark question. So there's quite a good bit of marks going for it, but you had to have the earlier parts correct to get this far. So while this wasn't the most difficult question, it was easy to lose marks if you had made any little slips earlier. So what we have next is the following. We say the point N lies on AB, such that N is perpendicular to AB. CN is perpendicular to CB, we know that. Hence or otherwise, find the area of this triangle. Well, we know, of course, this base length, we've already figured that out to be 4√5. So if we can figure out this length here, the perpendicular height, we'll be able to get the area. So that's what we do. So we say the square root of 7 minus 3 to be squared plus 4 minus 2 to be squared. That turns out to be 2√5. We know that AB is 4√5. So if I use the idea of half the base by the perpendicular height, I can see here I'm going to get 20 units squared. And just be careful to put in your unit squared at the end because you don't want to lose out on a mark for not having that in. And that was a 5 marker there at the end. Okay, so, not the most difficult question, but at the same time, you had to kind of stay sharp with it. So to make sure you didn't lose any marks. And particularly in the earlier part of C there, if you'd made a mistake earlier, that would have proven to be much more difficult question. Okay, let's move on to question 4.